Well, it's about 2:01, so I guess we'll get started, and then if people are still logging in, they can just join us as we're going. So welcome. Thank you for joining us today. We're going over information about our English as an Additional Language program that we have here at MacEwan. My name is Terry Robinson, and I have with me Kimberly Tavares, and we are both advisors here at the School of Continuing Education. And if you have any questions during the presentation, you can just put those into the chat, and Kimberly will be answering them throughout the presentation, and we'll also have lots of time at the end as well to answer all of your questions. And I'm just going to shut my camera off during the presentation just to make sure that nothing glitches and we're good to go. All right. So just a bit of information about MacEwan and the School of Continuing Education. MacEwan University is the second largest university in Edmonton. We're right in the heart of downtown, and we have almost 13,000 full-time students. The School of Continuing Education is located in Allard Hall, which is MacEwan's newest building, which was built in 2017. And in this new building, there are, brand new classrooms and technology, student use meeting rooms, lots of formal and informal study spaces, computer common areas. And now that we're at the main campus, before we were over at Alberta College campus, now that we're at the main campus, there is better access to student services and clubs. MacEwan has many different supports and services in place that all MacEwan students are able to use. The Careers and Experience Center. This center offers career guidance and job search advice. Students can also access free counseling through MacEwan's wellness and psychological services. We also have an access and disability resources, which is for students with disabilities to talk about different accommodations and supports that might be available. And we also have our own University Health Center, where students can access physical and mental health care services. So I first just wanted to start with some information about the name of our program. So our program is called English as an Additional Language, and we often get asked if this is the same as English as a Second Language, or ESL. And the answer is yes. Our program, it is an ESL program. We just have a different name. So we recognize that English might not be your second language that you're learning. It might be the fourth or seventh language that you're learning. So that's why we call our program English as an Additional Language rather than English as a Second Language, but they are the same programs. So our program, it's open to both domestic and international students. And we offer a full range of English skill building courses to build your English language proficiency, to meet your academic, personal, and professional goals. Students will require a very high level of English language proficiency to be successful in MacEwan's degree and diploma programs. And some students, or some programs like nursing, for example, require an even higher level of language proficiency from their students. The university programs here at MacEwan and elsewhere, they're fast-paced, they're competitive, and classes blend both international and domestic students. So it's really important that your English skills are well developed in order to be successful. Not all pathways look the same for all students. Depending on what your background is and what your academic goals are, but generally students need to improve their English language skills and then improve their academic skills like math and science before moving into a degree or a diploma program. Many of our students go on to programs here at MacEwan, but also at the U of A, NAIT, and other places. We really encourage you to look at your goal program. So for example, whether it's business or nursing, so that you know what the language requirements and academic requirements are that you will need for admission into that program. And like I said, the pathway is different for everyone, and it really depends on your previous academic education and what your current English language levels are. So for our EAL, English as an Additional Language program, students do have to meet a minimum language proficiency to be accepted into our program. So we will accept CLB scores of 5 in at least 2 skill areas with no skill under 4. The CLB, this is a test. It's a language assessment done through Catholic Social Services. Some of you might have done that test already or heard of that test. When you apply to the program, you can upload your CLB scores. And so if you have a, 2 5s and 2 4s, this is sufficient for admission. But for example, if you had 2 5s, a 4, and a 3, unfortunately, that would be too low for our program. Some of you might be currently in a LINK program. This is the Language Instruction for Newcomers to Canada program, maybe at Norquest or One World, One Center or somewhere else. If you are finishing up a LINK level 5, that's the level that you need to start in our program. And we also accept an IELTS score of 4.0, or if you've done the Duolingo test, which is another online assessment, we will accept a minimum score overall of 55 to be accepted for our program. And then once you apply to the program, again, you can submit your CLB scores or your LINK certificate or IELTS, and you're going to be placed into our EAL classes that match those scores that you submit. So we have 5 levels in our EAL program. And each level, we have courses in reading, writing, listening, and speaking. And then we also have courses that focus on a specific skill area, for example, a pronunciation or grammar or vocabulary. Each level takes 1 term to complete, which is about 4 months. And we have 3 terms per year, a fall, a winter, and a spring summer term. So a student that's completing all 5 levels in our program, it will take them about 1.5 years to complete everything. So that would be starting with our first level and working right through to the 5th level. It's going to take about 1.5 years. Students that want to attend full-time will take 3 classes every term. So one of those will be a reading and writing class. One will be a speaking and listening class. And then the 3rd class would be the focus course. So depending on what area you'd like to improve, whether it's grammar or vocabulary. And again, as I mentioned, we have 5 levels in our program, and students that successfully complete the 5th level, which is the highest level, will meet the English language proficiency requirement for most of the degree and diploma programs at MacEwan. So all of our EAL classes are scheduled in person and on campus. So this is an example of what your schedule would look like. At 9:30 to 10:50 would be the speaking and listening course. Right after that, from 11 to 12:20 would be your focus class or the optional class. And then that's followed by the reading and writing class, which is 12:30 to 1:50. And these classes are every day, Monday to Friday. So, you can expect to be on campus every day, Monday to Friday, between about 9:30 and 2 o'clock. Okay, so now for funding. So there is financial assistance available for students in the EAL program. It's called Foundational Learning Assistance. And this is grant funding from the government, which means if you're approved for it, you don't have to pay it back. It's not the same as a student loan where you have to pay it back when you're done. There are certain eligibility criteria that you have to meet. So it's not guaranteed that all students in EAL are eligible for funding. It will depend on if you're an international student or a domestic student, and on the financial information that you provide to the government in your funding application. So for example, it will depend on what your expenses are, your living expenses, and your monthly resources, and whether you have childcare expenses, for example. So you can visit the Foundational Learning Assistance website for more information and to view those eligibility criteria. But if you are approved for funding, this will cover the cost of the tuition, fees, books, and supplies, and then possibly a living allowance as well. And if you are a funded student, you do have to be regularly attending your classes and doing well in them and progressing to the next level, or your funding might not be approved in future terms. So in order to apply for funding, first, you do need to be to apply and be accepted to the EAL program. And once you're an active student in our program and registered in classes, we will collect some information from you so that we can confirm your student enrollment for the government. And then next, the government emails you the link to your online funding application. Funding applications can be approved very quickly, but you do need a verified My Alberta Digital ID, or MADI, account in order to access the online funding application. If you don't have a MADI account, or you maybe have the basic account, but you haven't gone through the verification process, we recommend that you start this process now, because it can take up to 2 weeks to complete the verification process. And in order to verify your account, you do need an Alberta driver's license or Alberta photo identification card. This proves that you are a resident of Alberta, so you're not able to use a passport or a PR card to verify your MADI account. It does have to be a driver's license or another Alberta identification card. And it also has to be up to date with your current address, because this verification process involves the government mailing you something in the mail to your house or your home address. So that needs to be up to date as well. So there's lots of little steps that you can do now so that you're all ready to go and apply for funding once you're an active student in our program and registered in classes. These are the tuition and fees for domestic students. In addition to the amounts that you see here, there are also mandatory term fees that students must pay. These include things like a sports and wellness fee, Students Association fee, U-Pass, which is the bus pass. And these are about $500 per term. So students taking 3 courses can expect to pay or expect that it will cost approximately $2,800 for one term. So this is why the government funding piece is so important, because it's very expensive. The tuition amount is, quite expensive, and it's students often, might not be able to pay this out of pocket every term. But again, if you apply for funding and are approved for funding, then these costs are covered. So when you're ready to apply to our program, first thing is just visit our website, macewan.ca/EAL, and select admissions in that left-hand drop-down menu. And then here you can also double check things like the admission requirements to the program, and then there's some dates and deadlines that are important as well. And then right at the bottom there is the Apply Now button. So all of our EAL applications are completed right through our website. So when you click Apply Now, you can start the application process. And just be aware that there is a $110 application fee. Right after you submit your application, you will be sent instructions for how to sign in to your MacEwan student portal so that you can track the status of your application. And these instructions are emailed to you, to your personal email address. But after that, all information will be sent to your new MacEwan email account. So it's very important that you know how to access your MacEwan student portal and your MacEwan email. And then once your application to the program has been accepted, we will contact you to let you know what level you'll start at. And again, this is based on the CLB scores or whatever it is you submit with your application. And then we will register you in your courses, and then we'll give you all the information you need to apply for funding. So some important dates for the winter term. This is our next intake. The application deadline to the EAL program is December 31st for winter term. The funding deadline is January 1st. This just means that we will not confirm any more student enrollments for the government after January 1st. Classes begin on January 4th, and final exams, or the last day of classes, is April 4th, followed by a final exam period. And then the add drop deadline for the winter term is January 13th. So what this means is classes start January 4th, and then you have until January 13th to decide whether you do want to continue with your classes or not. Often if you haven't heard or haven't received a funding decision by this date, you might decide to drop your classes so that you potentially, don't owe the tuition for them. But definitely once you're a student in our program, we can give you more information about that add drop deadline and what it means if you haven't received a funding decision by that date. But if you are approved for funding, then the government sends your tuition and fees directly to MacEwan. All right, so that's the end of the presentation. Again, my name is Terry Robinson and Kimberly is here as well. We're both advisors in the School of Con Ed. And then we also have Rosemary Matwee. She's program support for the EAL program. And Richard is the department chair. And we're always available to help. If you have any questions, we're available by phone or email just during our regular office hours, which are 8 to 4, Monday to Friday. Right now, our office in Aller Hall is open, but we do have reduced staff on site. So we certainly appreciate maybe a phone call to let us know if you're going to be dropping by. But yeah, definitely we want to hear from you. So give us a call. If you're prompted to leave a voice message, just leave your name and phone number so that we can phone you back, and we'd be happy to do that. And again, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon.